Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another STAMPtember exclusive from Simon Says Stamp. Today we are featuring the Paper Roses Studio stamp set called All the Things, and this is a large greeting stamp set primarily, but it has this beautiful border floral in it, and we're going to create a background from it. So I'm going to take some soft navy cardstock first. Here's the stamp set. It's so pretty, and it is a fantastic basic. So it kind of centers around the thanks, which you get the solid and you get the outline, and plus a lot of different greetings to customize it. And I am going to trim my soft navy cardstock to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I think what I'm going to do is take just a white Polychromo pencil. I'm going to be coloring with those in a minute, and I'm going to draw myself a little line just to help me trim my cardstock a little easier. You won't see that line. I'll cut right below it. That helps me. I want to do my sentiment at an angle because I want to do my border at an angle. Then I'm going to set my sentiment aside for a little bit, and I'm going to take my soft navy cardstock piece here, and I am going to take the floral border from this set, and I'm going to start in the center, and I am going to stamp this. And you could see me tip it there. I think it looks better up and down, straight up and down, like you just took a piece of pattern paper and cut it at an angle. So I am going to repeat stamp this all across this border, and I believe I end up stamping it 5 times. And we just want it to be a really continuous border, and you're going to see me shift the vine border so that I can kind of get it as close as to the previous border as possible. So let's stamp the first one. I've got some white Simon Says Stamp embossing powder here. I'm going to sprinkle this over my image. I did prep the cardstock with a powder tool first, so it's very powdery, but we will remove that here in a little bit. And I am going to heat this entire strip until all of the embossing powder has melted. All of the prep work here for the design is really kind of the most time consuming. So repeat stamping and then a little bit of coloring. And surprisingly enough, the coloring did not take very long. I really kind of limited, I suppose, the colors I used, and I tend to like a little bit more of a tone on tone anyway, often for cards like this, and so it worked out really well. Now I'm going to stamp the border right to the right, and you'll see that I shifted it up so that the blooms kind of fit into some of those little spaces a little bit better, and I can get my borders closer together. I'm going to do this for each one of the borders. And again, I'm just going to heat this in between each addition. I felt like that would probably be the best. So I'm keeping my embossing powder open, which is always dangerous. I've kind of had a clumsy week, so I guess I was living on the edge when I made this. And then I'm going to go to the left, and I'm just kind of playing around with placement. I don't want anything to overlap. And there, I call it buddying it up to the previously stamped border. And I'm going to finish stamping out this panel just like this. Now, something I have not done for a while, and I don't know why, because every time I use my Polychromos, I think, why do I not use these more often? We are going to color with colored pencils, and Polychromos are my favorite. For many, many years, I loved my Prismacolors. I still have my Prismacolors, but Polychromos are magic on dark cardstock, and my personal preference with them, and one of the things I think I like the most about Polychromos, is the ability to color on dark cardstock and still have a beautiful colored image, or in this case, a background. So we are going to now buff away any of that powder left on our panel, and I am taking 4 colors of Polychromos and a white. White is the base, and white is really the magical piece of this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And what you want to do is you want to lay down a base of white. I highly recommend keeping a pencil sharpener close. I do have my pencil sharpener close to me. I like a nice sharp tip. And you want to go through and put down a white base layer. This is what is going to allow the color to really pop if you're doing this technique. Then go over it with your colors. And I only picked 2 shades per color family, so 2 greens, 2 blues. I did leave in the description below the video the exact name of the colors I'm using in case you're looking just for those. I know some places you can buy the pencils individually if you don't want to buy a huge set. And then I'm going to go over the dark with my darkest color and just a little bit down near the base of the leaf just to give it a little depth and dimension. Now, until you get a little more colored, I don't think it looks quite as impressive, I suppose is a way to say that. But as you see me color this entire border and watch it come to life, it looks so amazing. And I'm amazed every single time that we can color on a dark cardstock with these Polychromos by laying down that white border first, or white layer, pardon me, first. It is absolutely amazing. So I did do a few leaves, but I am going to do a couple of blooms here so you can see it right off the bat. I picked a couple of different blue color combinations, but ultimately I decided on the one that you're going to see me use. So those other 2 pencils up in the top corner of the screen I did not use. I won't be listing those. Ooh, look at that blue. It's a really pretty bright blue. I love it. I am going to continue to color this entire border, and then I'm just going to work my way out. In order not to miss areas, which you'll see me, I think in the video, I think I left it in, I do miss a few little leaves here and there even as I'm coloring, even as I'm in each individual border. There's so many little pieces or little areas, it can be really easy to miss. And so I always try to kind of, in my mind, I suppose, break it down into smaller chunks. For me, doing border by border instead of kind of skipping all around allowed me to kind of focus in and hopefully not miss anything. Now, I did accidentally color in with my white pencil somewhere I did not mean to color, down near the bottom. Does it really matter? Probably not. Would anyone know? Probably not. But it did bother me. So I am going to take a sand eraser and I'm actually going to erase it, which you're going to see me do here. And I'm just really carefully kind of removing that white pencil. And I think it worked pretty good. I don't want to go too hard because I don't want to remove any of the embossing powder. As I add more and more of the layering to the individual images in this border, look at it come to life. You guys, it's so pretty. This would be beautiful in any color combination. Some of my other favorite colors to color on with Polychromos, navy is probably my #1. Well, it's right up there with like a dark gray. So I love the soft navy from Simon Says Stamp. I also love Blue Jay from Lawn Fawn. Those are 2 blues that are not really the same, but they're both deep and dark, and they look amazing with this technique. And then I love a dark gray, like a slate gray from Simon Says Stamp. And then Polychromos look amazing on a khaki background, or a craft background is what I want to say. Absolutely amazing on a craft background. Several years ago, I mean, it's been a little while now, I want to say probably about 5 years ago, I did a Santa background with well, I think actually Prismacolor colored pencils at the time, but it was colored pencils on a craft background, and it to this day remains one of my favorite cards I've ever made because the technique is just timeless. It really is. So if you have some colored pencils in your stash, whether it's Polychromos or Prismacolors, try laying down that layer of white pencil first and coloring over the top. Now, what I prefer about the Polychromos is they do not have the waxy finish that Prismacolors do. But that being said, It's just a personal preference. I still love my Prismacolors, and they would work wonderfully if that's what you have. So I am going to continue to color. I did speed up the coloring of the rest of the borders since I am simply repeating this same process over and over. I think I'll color just a little bit more of it here in slightly sped up time, but then the rest will be much, much faster. And then we are going to move on to the rest of the card and really kind of making the most of a stamp set. Something else fun about this is you might have similar stamp sets in your stash, meaning stamp sets that are very sentiment focused. And then you might have some floral stamp sets. Maybe they aren't in a single stamp set like this Paper Roses Studio set, but you might have, and as crafters and card makers, you probably do. You have some florals where you could create a floral border, even if it's not a border stamp, pardon me, but you could create a floral background. And you probably have some large sentiments where you could do something super similar. So shop your stash. That's my favorite motto for this. And hopefully, even though this video really does focus on this single stamp set, and as always, I like to remind you guys, this is a limited edition exclusive for STAMPtember 2022, meaning when this set is gone, it is gone and it won't be available. So definitely pick it up right away if you're interested. But if you do miss out and you're watching this, hopefully you're inspired to try something similar with things that you might have at home. If you haven't colored with your colored pencils in a while, if you haven't tried coloring with colored pencils on dark cardstock, I really hope that you will try it. That being said, maybe you don't have colored pencils, maybe you have markers. You could do something similar, probably not on a dark cardstock. I would go a little bit lighter, but try Copics on a very light gray or a light yellow or a light pink or a light blue. You will be amazed at the results. That's another thing that I really love doing. I have some videos here on my channel where I've done that. And you could create very similar cards. This is another design as well. Maybe if you don't want to color in a bunch of little bitty images, but something, the style of the card, I guess I want to say, is something that would lend itself really nicely to mass production if you want to do a whole set of thank you cards to give as a gift. I think sets of cards as gifts are always amazing. And the other thing I wanted to mention is you could always do the thanks on the front of the card, and then the rest of the sentiment, depending on how you do your sentiment. I used one that had the greeting that kind of went before the words, the thanks word, pardon me, but you could finish your card on the inside. So now I'm taking a slightly wider than A2 size, and the reason being is because I'm afraid I won't line it up, and you know what, I didn't. So this is going to give me a little bit of play. I am going to take a die from Simon Says Stamp that's been around for a long time, and it is a favorite of mine. It's called the Scallop Stitches. This is like a go-to for me. I absolutely love it, and I am going to die cut at an angle, and I did use my panel as a guide. I just didn't get it perfectly lined up. But that way I can kind of trim off the excess, and we're going to create a little border, a little separation from the light blue background to the dark blue border that we just created. And I am going to adhere our floral border to this white, and I love the separation of the white because the white really picks up the white embossing of our floral border, and I'm just going to trim away the excess on the sides. Now for the background, it would have been really easy to pick white, but I knew I wanted to do this white scallop, and I thought a light blue would be really pretty. So I picked the Hero Arts Mist cardstock. We're going to grab our Misty, and we are going to stamp the solid thanks at an angle along that scallop border right there. So I'm going to find exactly where I want it to go, and I'm going to line it up. Now I did go to my ink swatches, and I really looked for an ink that matched the soft navy cardstock the best. And in my stash, that is the Hero Hues Nautical ink. It's a deep dark blue. And I am going to stamp that right there at an angle. Look how pretty that looks. I think it really picks up the dark blue from the bottom. Then you do want to let it dry just a little bit, but I am going to stamp the thanks outline and then the rest of my sentiment. And I am going to prep my cardstock with a powder tool, so I'll need to buff that away later. I am going to then ink up the thanks outline and all the sentiment with clear embossing ink. I want to stamp that, and then we're going to sprinkle on white embossing powder and heat set that. Now I didn't wait quite long enough for the outline, so I'm going to show you it because it is tapping off, but it's sticking to my stamping. So what I did was I just took a dry paintbrush off screen and I wiped away anything that was on the thanks, and I just went ahead and heat embossed the all the. I'm going to remove the all the sentiment, but I'm going to leave the thanks in my MISTI, and I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes. I actually went and did something else for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I took the dogs outside, I did some other things, and then I came back and re-stamped it and added the white embossing powder and heat embossed it, and I was golden. And then we're gonna have, you wouldn't have to wait that long. I got distracted, I should have said, and came back a little bit later. And I love the white outline. So the white still is tying into the white embossing along the bottom, the white scallop border. It's all just kind of tying it together. Then I'm going to attach my bottom to the bottom layers, pardon me, to our background, and it's time for embellishing. Now I did pick out several different embellishing options, but I did end up going with the Trinity Stamps Tic Tac Jelly Hearts in white up here at the top. And I like those little white hearts. You guys know me, I had to find somewhere to add those hearts, and I like a little addition of something up there. And then along the bottom, I decided to go with the Trinity Stamps Crystal Blue Pearls. It's called the Crystal Blue Embellishment Mix. And I am going to scatter these all through the bottom part of the panel just for a little touch of embellishment and for just, you know me and the pearls and hearts. I like them on everything. Then we're going to adhere this entire panel to a white top fold card base, and our card is all finished. I do think for the finished card, adding something like for your kindness, one of the sentiments from the stamp set to the inside of the card would look nice, or you're the best, or you could even do for everything. There's lots of ways to do this, and I like that it kind of works for the inside or the outside and inside of the card. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for the limited edition exclusive from Paper Roses Studio for STAMPtember 2022 called All the Thanks. The supplies I used to create the card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you would like to become a member of Patreon, please click the link in the description below. We would love to see you over there as part of our growing community. Here is another video featuring Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember exclusives that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, click the like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new card making video. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.